So if you recall in part one, the bike had decided to go swimming. So I decided to find a different place to cross just above that pool, and this was a lot easier way to get out. It had been a really hot day, and I'd splashed through a bunch of water previously on other trails, and that always felt good. And I thought, oh, let's do another splash. That was a mistake. I think it was the heat, but also maybe the fact of having a camera on. You do crazy things. I don't know. So I learned my lesson. But as far I don't have any video of the repair work. That's not too interesting, right? I had the spark plug tool, but I couldn't get the tool out with the plug in it, which was annoying, but it was enough to be able to get the water out of the cylinder. I was really glad I had a Kickstarter on my bike. Just makes it so much easier to turn the engine over. And then once I had cleared it of water, it started right up. That was great. It ran a little rough at first. That's because the air filter was totally soaked as well. You bring out the water, but it's still wet. By the end of the ride, it was totally dry, of course. It's a hot day. So taking the water out of the piston, that was the easy part. The scary part was that water got into the engine crankcase. So, you run a little hoping that it will evaporate and just go away, not be a problem, but you check it, it's like, yeah, the oil was foaming up. So I had to stop and change the oil. So Jeeps come by often enough, and I asked to buy some oil from them, and hoping they would have some. I figured at some point someone would have, but I was extremely grateful for their generosity that they had it. Nobody wanted to take any money for oil, and it's only a quart, so I guess it didn't bother them. So after the first oil change, I thought I was in great shape, and then checked it a little later, and it's like, okay, the foam color was certainly better, but it's still bad. I gotta change it again. So again, I had to wait until Jeeps came by and saved me a second time. Extremely grateful for their generosity there. Could have been a really bad situation otherwise. Interesting. I was happy to see that they carry these strange pads, or essentially a sponge, so that you dump the oil onto the pad, it soaks everything up, and then they bagged it, and no mess. So they're very environmentally conscious as well. You see the trail, especially on the slabs, there's oil markings all over the place. People break, something and leaks, and it leaves a mess. And they're responsible. It's like, okay, sorry about the mess, but when we fix it, we'll have to drain it. They'll catch their own oil. So that's good. So now talking about the trail. Here we're at, it's called Big Sluice. So you drop down Cadillac Hill into the Rubicon Springs area, which is very level. There's some bumps along the way. It's not totally easy, but there's some challenges. Can't show you everything, though. This video will be way too long. And so once you get to the end of that, you could call it a valley down there. It's not really a valley. Then you got to climb back up everything you went down on Cadillac Hill. And that's what this Big Sluice is. And only kept the mid part, because I'm not exactly sure where it starts at the bottom. It doesn't have a really hard, definite start. When you get to the top, though, you definitely know where it is. And you're very relieved, because then you get to take a break. So going uphill is a lot harder than flats or downhills are the easiest, as you saw. This part, though, did pretty good. I don't have enough commentary to provide for the entire ride through here, so just chime in here and there. Right now, I'll step out. You keep watching. I'll be back.
Just me. I'll take a break.
Yeah, we were all just together then.
So now we're here at Buck Island Lake, which is just a little bit after the big sluice. It's a really popular camping area because it's about midway along the trail. So there are spurs everywhere going left and right down to the lake, up into the granite. And again, you get kind of lost here, trying to find the right trail. You're not sure where you're going, but you figure it out. So I originally thought I'd stop here, take a nice long break, go swimming. But due to the bike's little swimming adventure down at Rubicon Springs, I'm way behind schedule. It's already past 5 and I just need to keep moving. At this point, it's just after 5 o'clock. I had started just after 9 out of Auburn. So that means I've been on the road for 8 hours. Not necessarily riding the whole time, but getting a little tired. And this lake is the midpoint along the Rubicon Trail, which means there's still a little over an hour of trail to do. And then 60 miles back to Auburn. So, no break time for me. Just keep going. And very shortly, I'm going to run into a large group of people who are leaving or just passing through. And this is what happens often in narrow area. Sometimes there's no room for people going opposite directions, so you just have to stop and wait for them to go by. But when there's a large group, you realize you're going to be there a while, so you get off the bike and scout out a new line, and that's what I did here. You can see them coming up there on the left. Also, at this point, I'm not on the trail. My trail's somewhere down there.
Not when you take the wrong line.
Pretty sharp right at the very bottom.
I know, just lean back, right?
Okay.
And go slow. Yeah, there's room. Plenty of room.
I always feel like the Jeeps get really nervous when I pass very close to them like that. At one time, somebody, there were people walking around the Jeeps as they're navigating these things, and they were just kind of parked waiting for their turn to go through. And one of the walkers put his body between me and the Jeep kind of as a shield, so that if I fell over, I'd run into him, not into his Jeep. It's like, well, okay, doesn't know me, doesn't know I have long enough legs to keep that from happening. But yeah, those Jeeps are very expensive, and they don't know who to trust. But you get that sense of, stay away from me, don't get so close. But haven't had any problem with that part, so that's good. And again, here I'm off course. Happens all the time when you're on the open slabs. It's like, where am I supposed to go? Here I'm going back, and these guys are stuck here because whenever you cross water, you've got water on your tires, and then you really have no grip. The guy was just spinning there for a while. Same thing happens to motorcycles. You want to avoid water because as soon as you come out, your tires are wet, and it's very slippery.
I keep losing the trail. I keep losing the trail. It's like, that can't be it. It's like, oh, there you are. So do wet tires really, bother you going up this?
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah, same with me. It's like I get them wet and it's just, got nothing. I think we need some rain. It's too much dust.
At this point, we're entering a very large open area. You get lost on these slabs because there's not a lot of marking. There are tracks going left and right all over the place. Other people getting lost, or people just having fun. I don't know. Luckily, I have a pretty good sense of where the trail is supposed to be, so you just kind of head in a general direction. Meanwhile, trying to pick your best way across all the little, I don't know what they're called. You have these layers of slab. You have to just keep jumping up. On the way down, it's actually pretty fun. You can go pretty fast in this part because the elevation differences between the slabs aren't much, but you can get a few by surprise. But going up, well, I'm a little tired. I'm just looking for the easiest way up them. But, maybe officially I should say I'm saving energy because after this, there's an obstruction called the Little Sluice Box, which is really tough, regardless of which way you're going. It'll, drain your energy. If you're heading eastbound, if you make it past that to this slab, you can, say you've passed a benchmark, you can make it the rest of the way. That was probably the toughest part to do. It's, you know, there's still plenty of obstacles to get through, but if you get through that and you're still wanting to do more, then you'll make it to Tahoe. Going this way, well, you've got to make it through. It's just tiring. I am happy that I'm here so late because the sun's so low, it's actually pretty cool, or at least not hot. In, you know, if the sun's straight overhead, it can be roasting out here. There's just not a shade, no shade. It's like an oven. You know, this may be a good time to share that this is exactly the type of thing, the type of ride of why I bought the 350. You know, it's as nimble as a dirt bike, a little heavier, not too much of a problem. It's got great torque. It can change altitude and temperature because of fuel injection. It's just perfect for exactly what this is. Like everybody else, I'm sure the debate was, well, should I get the 500 instead? And you know, I've never ridden a 500, but no regrets about the 350. I think it's the best deal. Well, the ideal bike for this, because fuel consumption is always an issue on these long rides where there's no gas stations available, and a 500 is going to eat 50% more gas probably, or at least some measure more. On part one, when I was filling up at the gas station, I don't know if you caught the caption, but it seems that it always takes me 2 gallons to get to that gas station, regardless of which direction I go, whether I start in Auburn or Forest Hill, and what options I do in between. Or, you know, sometimes I get to Loon Lake and I've already done 100 miles, and I get across this, Rubicon Trail and get to Tahoe City, and then, I must be really low on gas. No, 2 gallons, always 2 gallons. It's funny. So if you're on the stock tank, you could make it if you filled up at Georgetown. But if you're on a 500 and a stock tank, you're in trouble. I do have the 3-gallon tank, so don't need to worry about fuel anymore. So a little more about the sluice box that's coming up. In the direction I'm going, I don't know exactly where the official start of it is. You know, at the opposite end of it, it's very clear and abrupt. You know, what it is, it's like I wouldn't call it a canyon. It's like a V-shaped thing. I remember a very, very long time ago, there were no rocks in it, but it's been all infilled with boulders, and it's just, they're not small boulders. And now the road is on those boulders in that V. Before you had to go all sorts of sideways to get through it and then get up onto a slab, and it's very different now. But for a motorcycle, I would say that's the most taxing part of this whole ride. And when I did this like 5 years ago in this direction, I ran across a sign that said, "Oh, this way hard, this way easy," you know, somewhere back there in the slabs we just passed. And it gave me a bypass to that little sluice box. And ever since, I've been looking for that bypass again. I know it existed at some point because a very, very long time ago, I was out here, a group on mountain bikes, and we actually did use that bypass. So maybe things have changed, maybe they've closed it up, but I'm going to keep looking for it. It's got to be there somewhere. You know, I was looking online for clear maps of all the options, and there seems to be some discussion about it. It seems like somebody was saying it was on private property, and so maybe they've closed it up, but they've done a good job of hiding it. We got more rocks. I'll let you know when I think we're in the sluice box. Right now, it's just a sea of rocks. And in the direction I'm going, on the left side of the sluice box is, you know, granite, but you keep dumping, smooth granite slabs. So you keep trying to hop up onto it, but it forces you back down into it, and yeah, you can't avoid it. You got to do some of those big rocks. So it's just tiring. It's like our version of Carl's Diner. If you've ever watched Erzberg Rodeo, it's like, okay, you're in it. This isn't going to be fun. It's going to take a while. So I'm going to take a guess that this is the part of the little sluice box on the right. You know, between the slab and those rocks on the right, the trail's supposed to be down there, but it's so much easier to just run on the slab. But you can't always stay on the slab, so you have to drop in and beat yourself up a little bit and then get back on the slab and drop back in. But I'm sure you're supposed to stay on the rocks. These aren't bad here. They get worse further down, you'll see. I should also mention that very quickly up here on the left is the wilderness boundaries. There are markers, you know, they're pretty far apart, but every now and then you'll realize, oh, I'm in a wilderness area, get back on the road side of it. So you want to be mindful about it. That's why people can't just go run anywhere they want. Or else, you know, I've heard that rangers sometimes are out there policing it, so you know, no need to have them shut down the trail. Or do something like putting fencing on it. That would be awful. To keep people in the wilderness area. So here's an example. Well, okay, you got to get off the slab, back on the rocks, and pound yourself a little, and then see if you can bypass it, some small part of it. Very shortly up ahead, I'll run across a group. Seems to be from South America, or I don't know. I didn't ask. Only a few of them spoke English, and they had funny license plates. But I was sitting there for several minutes, watching them just spin, and try different lines. Couldn't get up. Finally, they decided, okay. They asked me, hey, do you want to go through? Yes, of course I want to go through. I don't mind the break, but it just shows that, you know, depending on the driver, they can sit there and just polish the stones and throw up sand up everything, which makes it very difficult for us on motorcycles to get up.
You want to pass through?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Do it?
Yeah, that's fine. I'll just walk it down if I have to.
Okay.
It looks a little slippery.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
When you finally see this bridge up ahead, you can breathe a sigh of relief that the worst is over. You're not done. There's still plenty of things to get through, but it's a good sign. And just shortly ahead, there's a fork in the road. The left will take you back to Loon Lake, and the right is Wentworth Springs Road. Technically, Rubicon Trail is Wentworth Springs Road, so you should take a right if you want to do the whole length of it. But Loon Lake is probably the more popular, and by doing the left, you get to cross another huge open slab area. The only complication with that is navigating, because you just can't tell where the trail is. But that's a minor detail. It also can be really hot on the slab. But the right turn, you just have more rubble and loose rock. Eventually it starts getting better and starting to look like a real dirt road, and then all of a sudden it's a paved road, and that's Wentworth Springs Road, which will take you all the way back to Georgetown. Today I'm taking the left turn. So these two options of the connection to Loon Lake and Wentworth Springs Road give you the opportunity to try Rubicon Trail without committing to doing the whole thing. You'd come up from wherever, you know, Ice House Road or Wentworth Springs Road from Georgetown. You could enter on Loon Lake, do a loop, come to that bridge, turn around and go back on the other trail and not feel committed. You have to make all the way to Tahoe and give you a taste of what it's like. So that would be a good way to wet your toes without committing to riding the whole thing. It also allows you to see both trails, well, approaches, without doing it out and back. But going out and back on the slab is not a problem. Maybe you'll notice at the end of this ride, after I get done with the slab, there'll be some motorcycle tracks in the dust you'll see, and obviously there were 2 trials bikes that went out there and go played around, and someday I should do that. And I don't have a trials bike, but just with this one, practice, and you're not showing up exhausted where you really can't practice anything, but it's a fun playground. So here I am finally on the final slab. Straight ahead you can see the dam of Loon Lake, if you know where to look, I guess. This isn't like the other open slab. The drop-offs from one layer of granite to another vary from just little steps to big drops. So you don't want to be going too fast through this, and you want to pick your way and look over the edge before you drop. So at the same time, you're trying to make sure you're on the right track. People say, "Oh, just follow the oil slicks." The problem is, when it rains, all that oil gets washed down the granite, and if you follow that, you're off course, which is exactly what I'm going to be doing. It's a lot easier when there are enough Jeeps on the trail, and you just look ahead and see, "Oh, that's where I'm aiming for," and then you kind of zigzag, work your way around, and not have to worry about it. Going down these drops is a little easier. When you're going the opposite way up, you're looking for things that are a little more sensible to try to go up without hurting yourself or the bike. As you can see here, I'm just backtracking, looking for something that's not a 10-foot drop. Here you see me heading back up the slab because I realized I was way off course. And, just shortly before that you might have seen a no trespassing sign, which is strange, but there are markers. Basically, the trail is very narrow. On either side is either wilderness area or private property, and so there are markers. It's just the few and far between, and same thing with the trail marking. It's not always so visible, so you end up off course. quick break to transition to road riding mode. It was back on the bike and go, go, go. From here, it's 60 miles further to back to Auburn, where I started. At this point, I've been riding 10 hours. The whole trip took 11 hours, which was pretty long, longer than I expected. But things happened I didn't expect either. One advantage of being so late is it wasn't too hot when I got back to Auburn. At this point, I'm wearing my jacket. I was more comfortable about all the bugs I'm hitting as well. So appreciate you watching this video, and I'll see you on the next trip. Thanks for watching.